Violent protests erupting in Egypt after President Mohamed Morsi grants himself new powers. Tens of thousands clashing on the streets over the move. Some burning offices of Morsi's group, the Muslim Brotherhood.
Outside Cairo, the Muslim Brotherhood's Ismailia buildings were set on fire, and the Suez offices of their political wing, the Freedom and Justice Party, burned too.
Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi's supporters, the Muslim Brotherhood, want a strong president. They want more Islamic law. His opponents say the president is forcing an Islamic agenda down their throats. And today, the two sides clash. Well, like I predicted and warned time and time again, Egyptian President Morsi and his Muslim Brotherhood have no desire to expand the freedom of its citizens. They want and are about to implement Sharia law. Now, as the world watches a country that sits on the brink of coming under fundamentalist Sharia law, where women have no rights, no protection from the government.
But they don't want Sharia law. They don't want to be taken over by a dictator who is doing it in the name of Allah. They don't want it.
The opposition believe the Muslim Brotherhood is intent on gaining the political strength to forge a new Egypt on Islamic law, and it's desperate to stop them.
I'm against the constitution, and we want to bring down Mohamed Morsi because we didn't elect him, and the country is being ruled by the Muslim Brotherhood. We want a secular state, not an Islamic one. We want a secular state, not an Islamic one.
طب قول لي اديني فرق واحد، انت بقى اديني فرق واحد بين هتلر وبين محمد مرسي.
They're violent, they're intolerant, they are against the Copts, they are against women, they are against liberty.
The opposition has a one-word slogan
Freedom!
against a constitution it fears will turn Egypt into an Islamist state.
وأرجو الإله يزيل العناء ويرسل جندا كديم السماء.
Egypt's Prosecutor General has referred a complaint accusing former presidential candidates and politicians of spying and inciting to overthrow the government. Among the accused is former presidential candidate Amir Moussa, who is accused of meeting with former Israeli Foreign Minister Tzipi Livni as part of a so-called Zionist plot.
Cairo on Saturday belonged to the Muslim Brotherhood and supporters of President Morsi, who flooded the streets in a show of strength for their man. While Tahrir Square remained occupied by the opposition, Islamist crowds, many of whom had come in from the countryside, marched elsewhere. We came to support our president and say we all want Sharia law. We don't want him to have to take back his decision. The air filled with cries of we all want Sharia and the laws of God.
والراجل عايز مصلحة البلد ويأمن البلد ويأمن برضه يعني كل ما يخص الشريعة الإسلامية في تطبيقها.
عن السيرة والعن السيرة وجاي أنصر الإسلام. أنا بحب محمد مرسي وشايف فيه غلط. عشان كده جاي وتعبان وعندي فقرات وجاي أنصره بأمر الله.
فهم لا يحترمون إلا مصلحتهم وفقط. لقد رأيتم بأعينكم زجاجات الخمر التي يشربها من يزعم أنهم من الثوار والفحم الملقى الآن بيعملوا بالشيشة وشرايط الترمادول.
I support the president, and I think that opponents of the president claim that Egypt would turn into an Islamic state. But the reality is that they do not want a constitution that contains Islamic law.
Morsi supporters have in fact been chanting bread, freedom and Sharia at rallies.
Islamists also held protests chanting bread, freedom, Islamic Sharia.
They changed the chant to bread, freedom, Islamic law. Okay, so as a person who's deeply secular, that scares the living hell out of me. But if you thought that was scary, wait till you get a load of the other chants. One was, Egypt is Islamic, it will not be secular, it will not be liberal. And then here comes my favorite, with blood and soul we redeem Islam. Oh.
في هذه الوقائع المؤسفة مع مرتكبيها والمحرضين عليها ومموليها في الداخل كانوا أو في الخارج، داعين الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يرحمهم وأن يتقبلهم وأن يجعل شهادتهم هذه في سبيله.
And it seems that Morsi and the Brotherhood have triumphed much quicker than anybody expected, and nobody should doubt what their ultimate intentions are in terms of strict enforcement of Sharia and the recreation of the caliphate, the Khilafah.
But what we've done is allowed the Muslim Brotherhood now to complete their caliphate. This is exactly what they promised they were going to do.
As an analogous vehicle to create if you will, an Islamic dictatorship in Egypt. And Coptic Christian groups are threatened if the Brotherhood gets its constitution and imposes Sharia law.
And therefore, it will only enforce a religious state. It also, they said, will enforce a presidential dictatorship.
You lay down where you really want to go and then you back away from it, but ultimately you keep making progress toward your goal. The goal will be the restoration of the caliphate. I don't think the peace treaty with Israel ultimately will be honored, but we will see what form that takes and when it will take it.
The majority of people in Egypt are not protesting against Morsi and Sharia law. They are actually for it. And this past Saturday, hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets of Egypt in support of Sharia law and the Constitution. What we are seeing right now on the street is only the minority. In Giza, in Alexandria, all over Egypt, throughout the cities on Saturday, they came out in support of the new policy of adopting Islamic law, Sharia law, into the Constitution.
So you don't see that a radicalized Islamic Sharia state under Morsi is a danger to the entire region and the world?
Egypt says 63% of the voting population of the country has approved the controversial referendum on a new constitution. 63% by any measure, Ian, is a landslide in approval of this new constitution.
But it definitely is a large approval of the Constitution from the people who voted.
The number of articles asserting the centrality of Sharia law in Egyptian society. One article states that Egypt's most respected Islamic institution, Al-Azhar, must be consulted on all matters related to Sharia law, something many fear will be used to require clerics to oversee the drafting of legislation and could lead Egypt down the path towards theocracy. Another point of contention is the lack of protection of freedom of speech. One article explicitly bans insulting or defaming the Prophet Muhammad. The document has sharply divided a country which only a little under 2 years ago rose up to overthrow the authoritarian regime of Hosni Mubarak. Its assertion of Sharia as a central pillar of Egyptian law has drawn stark divisions between its Islamist supporters and minority groups, which include liberals, secular Muslims, and Christians.
إنما أردت بهذا الإعلان حقيقة أن أصل إلى مرحلة إنجاز الدستور، إلى إجراء الاستفتاء عليه، إلى السماح، إلى تهيئة الفرصة لهذا الشعب العظيم لكي يقول كلمته.
الشعب بيقول عايزة، الشعب بيقول نعم للدين، صح؟ نعم خلاص، هي نعم للدين، احنا عايزين دين. واللي
واللي يقول ده خلاص بلد ما نعرفش نعيش فيها انت حر. التدبر ده يعني سنة شرعية وسنة طبيعية، ونهيئهم نعلم الناس. الناس بحاجة أن يتعلموا، لابد أن نبذل جهدا في تعليم الناس حقيقة الإسلام، وإنما الناس يعني لا تفهم الشريعة كما ينبغي. إحنا في حاجة أننا نعرف الناس أحكام الشريعة ونبينها للناس قبل كل شيء، ونقعد مدة نعرف الناس. أنا أعتقد أن ال5 سنين الأولى دي ليس فيها قطع يعني أيدي ولا أي، لابد فيها من التعليم والبيان وهذه الأشياء.
Recently, Sharia law-compliant TV channels have also been launched, where women presenters are obliged to be fully covered with a hijab. If true, and it has yet to be officially confirmed, the move would seem to indicate the Morsi government beginning to impose a Sharia-compliant law system on the country.
بل سنمضي